Science Standard 6, Chapter 5, Separation of Substances. There are many instances when we notice a substance being separated from a mixture of materials. Tea leaves are separated from the liquid with a strainer while preparing tea. Grain is separated from stalks while harvesting. Milk or curd is churned to separate the butter. As we learned in Chapter 3, we gin cotton to separate its seeds from the fiber. Perhaps you might have eaten salted dalia or poha. Dalia is cracked wheat. Poha is flattened rice. If you found that it had chilies in it, you may have carefully taken them out before eating. Suppose you are given a basket containing mangoes and guavas and asked to separate them. What would you do? Pick out one kind and place them in a separate container, right? Seems easy, but what if the materials we want to separate are much smaller than mango or guava? Imagine you are given a glass of sand with salt mixed in it. Impossible even to think of separating salt from this mixture by picking out grains of sand by hand. But why? Why would we need to separate substances like this at all? Is what Paheli wants to know. Activity 1. In column 1 of table 5.1 are given a few processes of separation. In column 2, we have the purpose of separation, and in column 3, we have the way in which the separated components are used. 1. To separate stones from rice, the purpose of separation is to remove the impurities or harmful components. With the separated components, we throw away the impurities, that is, the stones. 2. Churning milk to obtain butter. Here the purpose of separation is to separate two different but useful components. What do we do with the separated components? We use both the components. We use the milk as well as the butter. 3. Separate tea leaves. The purpose for separation is to remove non-useful components. And what do we do with the separated components? We throw away the solid component. We see that before we use a substance, we need to separate harmful or non-useful substances that may be mixed with it. Sometimes we separate even useful components if we need to use them separately. So there are three types of components that we separate. 1. Harmful components. 2. Non-useful components. 3. Useful components. The substances to be separated may be particles of different sizes or materials. These may be solids, liquids, or even gases. So, how do we separate substances mixed together if they have so many different properties? Keep thinking and keep asking. 5.1 Methods of separation. We will discuss some simple methods of separating substances that are mixed together. You may come across some of these methods being used in day-to-day activities. The 7 methods of separation, like the 7 colors of the rainbow that we are going to learn about, are 1. Handpicking, 2. Threshing, 3. Winnowing, 4. Sieving, 5. Sedimentation, decantation and filtration, 6. Evaporation, and 7. Use of more than one method of separation. 1. Handpicking. Activity 2. Bring a packet of grain purchased from a shop to the classroom. Now spread the grain on a sheet of paper. Do you find only one kind of grain on the sheet of paper? Are there pieces of stone, husks, broken grain, and particles of any other grain in it? Now remove with your hand the pieces of stone, husks, and other grains from it. This method of hand picking can be used for separating slightly larger sized impurities like the pieces of dirt, stone, and husk from wheat, rice, or pulses. The quantity of such impurities is usually not very large. In such situations, we find that handpicking is a convenient method of separating substances. 2. Threshing. 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 You must have seen bundles of wheat or paddy stalks lying in fields after harvesting the crop. Stalks, stalks, are dried in the sun before the grain is separated from them. Each stalk has many grain seeds attached to it. Imagine the number of grain seeds in hundreds of bundles of stalk lying in the field. Field. How does the farmer separate grain seeds from those bundles of stalks? One may pluck mangoes or guavas from the trees, but grain seeds are much smaller than mangoes or guavas. So, plucking them from their stalks would be impossible. How does one separate grain seeds from their stalks? The process that is used to separate grain from stalks is threshing. Threshing. Threshing, not thrashing. Thrashing is when someone gives you a whack. That's thrashing. This is threshing. The process that is used to separate grain from stalks is threshing. Threshing. In this process, the stalks are beaten to free the grain seeds. That's cute. When a person gets beaten, it's thrashing. The police thrashed the robbers. But when plant stalks of paddy are beaten to free the grain, it is threshing. Sometimes threshing is done with the help of bullocks. Machines are also used to thresh large quantities of grain. 3. Winnowing. Winnowing. Riddle time. I have two wins, one no, one now, and one wing in me. Who am I? Winnowing. Activity 3. Make a mixture of dry sand with sawdust or powdered dry leaves. Keep this mixture on a plate or a newspaper. Look at this mixture carefully. Can the two different components be made out easily? Are the sizes of particles of the two components similar? Would it be possible to separate the components by hand picking? Now, take your mixture to an open ground and stand on a raised platform. Put the mixture in a plate or sheet of paper. Hold the plate or the sheet of paper containing the mixture at your shoulder height. Tilt it slightly so that the mixture slides out slowly. What happens? Do both the components, sand and sawdust or powdered leaves, fall at the same place? Is there a component that blows away? Did the wind manage to separate the two components? This method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. Winnowing. Winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. This method is commonly used by farmers to separate lighter husk particles from heavier seeds of grain. The husk particles are carried away by the wind. The seeds of grain get separated and form a heap near the platform for winnowing. The separated husk is used for many purposes, such as fodder for cattle. 4. Sieving. Sieving. Sometimes we may wish to prepare a dish with flour, flour. We need to remove impurities and bran that may be present in it. What do? We use a sieve, sieve, and pour the flour, flour, into it. We use a sieve and pour the flour into it. Eve used a sieve. Eve used a sieve, sieve. Eve used a sieve. Sieving allows the fine flour particles to pass through the holes of the sieve while the bigger impurities remain on the sieve. In a flour mill, impurities like husks and stones are removed from wheat before grinding it. Usually, a bag full of wheat is poured on a slanting sieve. The sieving removes pieces of stones, stalk, and husk that may still remain with wheat after threshing and winnowing. You may have also noticed similar sieves being used at construction sites to separate pebbles and stones from sand. Activity 4. Bring a sieve and a small quantity of flour from home to the class. Sieve the flour to separate any impurities in it. Now make a fine powder of chalk pieces and mix it with the flour. Can we separate the flour and the powdered chalk by sieving? Beep, beep, beep. Sieving is used when components of a mixture have different sizes. Sieving is used when components of a mixture have different sizes. Quiz time. You use me to separate small quantities of slightly larger impurities from grains like wheat, rice, pulses, etc. Who am I? I am the separation method of handpicking. I am the process in which the stalks are beaten to free the grain seeds. Who am I? Threshing. I am the process in which the police beats the robber. Who am I? Thrashing. I am used to separate heavier and lighter components of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. Who am I? Here's a clue. I have only a wing, but I win twice. Who am I? I am winnowing. I am used when components of a mixture have different sizes. Who am I? Sieving. Sieving. Thank you for learning about 4 methods of separation. 1. Handpicking. 2. Threshing. 3. Winnowing. And 4. Sieving. Thank you, Lord.